A massive welcome to the Life on Purpose podcast, Andy.
How are you? Good to be here.
Fantastic. Mate, it's so good to connect. Thanks for making the time. I know you're over in New York. There's a bit of a time difference between the two of us, but an absolute pleasure to connect.
Oh, good man. Yeah, looking forward to having a chat.
Now tell me this. So you're a Kiwi. Obviously, the accent gives it away. You're not from New Jersey or New York. So how did you end up all the way over there?
Yeah, well, I was actually playing rugby in Japan for the last 5 or 6 years, and then COVID hit, and timing was okay with that because I was sort of going to finish up anyway in Japan and head home and sort of start the next chapter of my life. But you know, my wife and I were sitting there one day before we came back, and we just said, you know, if another amazing opportunity came up, you know, we probably would still have a crack at it, and that would have to be somewhere like living in London or New York, you know, for us to consider that. But if that didn't happen, then I was happy to come back and start the next chapter. And then, mate, honestly, 2 weeks later, I got a message in the middle of the night from the head coach of the New York rugby team, and asking would I be interested in coming over. And I actually thought it was a dream because it came across in the middle of the night and woke up in the morning, and sure enough, it was still there. So we had a good chat about it, and decided that we'd take our young family and come and have another adventure while we still can.
That's epic. Fantastic. So you're doing something you love. It's been a hobby, it's been a career, it's been a profession, and you're able to do it in one of the best cities in the planet.
Yeah, and it really hasn't disappointed either. We came over in February, start of February, and it was a great challenge here. Rugby's a new sport, but you know, American people, they love sport, and they love entertainment, and they love they're tribal, so they love getting in behind things. So you know, it's been great, and you know, it's cool to kind of give a little bit back to, you know, like share some of my experiences, I suppose, with some people here, and you know, try and help grow it a little bit as well. But no, it's been great. City's incredible, family loving it, and yeah, the rugby's a great challenge.
That's epic, and you've got so much to offer. When you look at your history in rugby, it's phenomenal. So I'd love to chat a little bit about that, because not everybody who lifts a rugby ball ends up in the All Blacks, arguably the best rugby team on the planet. So how did that transpire? Where did that start? You know, in Christchurch as a kid, did you know that's what you wanted?
There's not many young fellas in Christchurch or New Zealand that don't pick up a rugby ball and kick it around at some stage in their youth. So you know, I just loved it. I was passionate about it. My dad loved it too. You know, the classic New Zealand family, I suppose. You know, would get up and watch test matches from overseas in the middle of the night, and I knew the national anthem and the haka when I was about 18 months old. You know? It's just kind of the way it is. So you know, I loved it and I'm passionate. But no, I didn't really ever consider the idea of actually playing professionally. You know, it just seemed a little bit too far stretched. You know, I wasn't my family, my dad and my grandparents and uncles and around, none of them are particularly big either. And you know, to be a good rugby player, usually you've got to be fairly big. So I ended up slotting into that halfback role pretty early on anyway. But yeah, no, look, I went to Burnside High School, which is a good co-ed school in Christchurch. Rugby, not a particularly big focus. I think we were in the second division, more a music sort of focus at that school. But yeah, I still loved it. Had great coaches and great group of guys, and yeah, just really enjoyed my rugby through that time. And then I went away and I played cricket. When I finished school, I went over to the UK and played cricket. I got a scholarship through the Willows Cricket Club in Christchurch, and loved that my time there too. Again, real good challenge for a 17 or 18-year-old to be away from mum and dad and try and fend for myself a little bit. Grow up a little bit, and then so I love that. Then I came back to Christchurch and carried on with my rugby. When I think back to that time, rugby was my real passion. I loved both cricket and rugby, but rugby was my passion, my love. And although I'd sort of been in and out of rep teams, really, I suppose, growing up, I really committed at that stage to rugby, and yeah, got stuck into the local varsity team and my club side, and yeah, that's kind of how it all played out.
That's brilliant. What I like about that, Andy, is you know, you didn't say at 5 years old, I'm going to be an All Black. It's like you went with life. You kind of pivoted as things came up. You took opportunities, and then when the timing was right, you're like, this is it. I'm going to commit to this.
Yeah, that's right, mate. And like you find you go. I played with some amazing athletes and skillful rugby players, and like you could have sworn they were destined for higher honours. But the thing is, and you find this when you actually get into the All Blacks, is a lot of the guys have got a similar story. It's actually more about how they were able to bounce back from disappointment, what sort of adversity they went through at different stages of their career or lives, and what sort of resilience, I suppose, they've built up over time. And then, because that's ultimately what kind of helps you kick on to that next level, being able to deal with those really tough situations at times and push through them and keep bouncing back. And I suppose that's kind of a bit of my story, co-ed school, not very big at rugby, missed out on a lot of teams, and then finally kind of got my chance in under 19s where I kind of took it.
You kept punching, like you didn't stop. You just kept like pushing and moving forward.
Yeah, and like I say, you talk to a lot of those boys in the top performing teams. Their stories would be similar, a lot of great athletes around there, but your ability to bounce or keep punching, especially when it gets really hard and it doesn't look like there's a lot of opportunity left. I think that's where it happens. I mean, I'll tell you, like, so when I missed out on the Canterbury under 19 rugby team. And it was then that I was kind of, I remember, I've told this story before, but I remember pulling over on the side of the road by Hagley Park, and I started crying, and I was like, if I haven't made the Canterbury under 19 team, rugby's probably not a career or a future for me. And I had a real moment I look back on, and I had a decision that I could make at that point. I could either go and start getting on the piss with my mates at uni on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, or I could make a really true, deep commitment to give it a chance, give it everything I could, even just 6 months, just give it everything I could, have no excuses. I don't want to be one of those old boys down in the club room saying I could have or should have or just wasn't quite so I fully committed to it, and it's amazing the opportunities that come when you're fully committed, and that's pretty much what happened. I was playing for the Canterbury under 19 B team. We played the New Zealand under 21 team, who were preparing for their tournament, because we were the B team. There's a bit of a kick around for them, and I played really well in that game. And the coach of the New Zealand under 21 side said, I want that young halfback to come to the trial next year. And the Canterbury coach was like, no, we've got two other halfbacks in the A team. And this coach said, no, I want that young kid to come along. He's going hard.
Wow.
And so I went to the trial that next year, which was about four months later. And from that, I made the New Zealand under 21 team. And then we went on that tour. A couple of months after that, I made the Canterbury NPC team. So 3 months after that, I made the Crusaders. And then at the end of that Crusaders year, about 4 or 5 months after that, I made the All Blacks. So
that's like super quick.
So, mate, honestly, from kind of crying on the side of the road and making this decision, within kind of 18 months, I was running out against the seller at Twickenham,
Amazing. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. So that's when I if I'm talking to young people, it's you've always got a decision, you've always got a choice, you always do, and sometimes it's really hard to make the choice, and it seems like there's not a lot of hope, but you still got a choice to make, and you can kick on and push through those tough times, and you'd be amazed at what you can achieve.
That's phenomenal advice.
Yeah.
And I look at life. So everyone's life is the same. It's a series of decisions. When you get up in the morning, that's a decision. Do I get up or do I hit the alarm? Do I eat a healthy breakfast or do I have unhealthy breakfast? So the decision-making process, any All Blacks or any elite athletes that I've had the pleasure of connecting with, I like to learn how they make decisions. So you made that decision when you were 18, 19, and that obviously impacted your trajectory hugely. And so now, as an adult, you're making decisions for your family, for yourself, for your business. So if we can go back to that decision, that pivotal decision, how did you do what 90% of people wouldn't have done? 90% of people your age would have went from Hagley Park and drove to the Carlton and had a pint and then had 10. So what helped you make that decision to go, I'm doubling down, let's do this?
Oh, look, I don't know. Parents probably played a role in that, when I was growing up, not to give up on things easily. I remember I played the piano when I was about 6 years old, and after a couple of months, I'd had enough of it. I don't want to kick a ball around, and there's no way Mum didn't let me, so I was still doing it 5 years later. Miserable. Brilliant. But I didn't have a choice. Like you start something, you don't stop it. So I think probably there's a bit of that deep down, really going like, are you gonna give up on this, or are you gonna give it a chance? So maybe it's a bit of that, I think maybe my upbringing, but I'm pretty competitive too. I don't like to give up anyway. So
it's great.
Maybe it's a bit of that.
And what about pressure? So you would have been in like a little bit of, I'm just hypothesizing, but thinking back to that moment, you would have been a little bit sad, disappointed, maybe upset. Making decisions when you're in that heat of battle is difficult, and sometimes you don't make clear decisions. How do you, when you're under pressure, whether you're playing on the rugby field or in business, when you're under pressure, how do you make clear decisions?
Well, back then I wasn't aware of it, but I've been really fortunate that I've been in great teams under great coaching and management, that I've developed processes now to be able to deal with a lot of that stuff. So now if I'm in a pressure situation, whether it's waiting for an Uber to get to the airport on time, or trying to win a big game, breathing is important. I'll always breathe and concentrate on breathing, get oxygen in into my lungs. I'll also have a physical motion or movement. So for me, I'll push my toes into the ground. If it's on the field, it's into through my boots into the grass, or everyday life, I'll just push my toes into the ground. And what that does is it takes your mind off what you're thinking about, or what you're stressing about, or the pressure situation, the mistake you've just made on the field. And when you do something physical, it actually forces your brain to stop thinking about that, even if it's just for a second, because you've got to push your toes into the ground. And then when you come back up into your head after a breath, quite often you're able to just focus on that next process or deal with that pressure situations. Now, not always. Sometimes you have to do it again. Crowd might still be yelling at you, or you might be feeling a bit on the pump. So you just same again, breath, push toes in, back into your own head, and then focus on that next job. And more often than not, it's a really good way just to kind of shift on to that next stage and be able to execute under pressure again. That's
brilliant advice. Yeah, I think of that like a neuro linguistic anchor, like having that anchor of pushing your toe into the ground, and that anchors you at a neurological level and allows you to kind of decompress or detach from that situation. I really like that. And it's something that nobody sees you doing. Like if you've got a pair of rugby boots on, nobody knows that you're trying to ground yourself. Like nobody can see what you're doing in there.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense too, doesn't it? Think about it. It's hard for you to be thinking about something when your brain's telling you to do something else. And you'll actually see it too out on the field. If you have a good look at the All Black boys, someone makes an error, they'll have a moment. Sometimes just some touch their shoulder, some will give themselves a wee hit on the head, and you'll think they're saying, "Oh, what have you done?" But actually, it's their process to shift on and move on to the next stage. And so most of the guys these days have got a process that they can work through to kind of shift their mind into the next stage.
It's brilliant. And in your time in the All Blacks, who would you say was a great role model, or someone that modeled leadership behaviors that you're like, hey, I've learned a lot from that individual?
Oh, I mean, again, I've been so fortunate to play with some of the great players in recent, decades, really, and coaches too. Like the coaching ones, Wayne Smith really stands out to me as an incredible coach, and his behaviours, like his work rate to be the best, is just unparalleled. Like it's not by accident that he knows almost where the game's going before it's gone there. He's studied so hard. He doesn't miss. He watches just about every game there is, breaks it down, figures out where the opportunities are and why they are, can present it well. So his hard work and that side of things, and he kind of always he tries to lead the way, tries to go places people haven't been yet, and so he's always pushing the boundaries and always says things and you think, oh, I don't know if that's a great call, and sure enough, 6 months later, it's kind of where the game's gone, or what's happening. So you sort of learn pretty quickly to just trust him on that stuff. So Smithy was a big one for me in terms of his behaviours and his work rate and the way he thought about pushing the boundaries. The other great leaders are like my good mates like Richie and DC, Rito, those boys, just so tough and determined for excellence. Like you're just not going to get in their way. They're so clear on where they want to go and how they're going to achieve it, and to see them at work is just a thing to behold. It really is. And I'm talking about little behaviours too. They just at first out on Richie was always the first out on the field. Didn't matter. In fact, if it was raining and it was miserable, he'd make sure that he was out there running. He'd run about 3 laps before anyone else got out there, just to show like it's all right, boys. Come with me. Never needed to say it, but well, you always knew. Guys like DC, he'd sneak down to the gym late at night to do extra sessions. He kicked. Yeah, he'd be down on days off when he probably wasn't even supposed to. He'd be kicking another 100 shots a goal. Just because he wanted to be the best. I don't know how you teach that or train that, but it's just a way that the boys go about their work. I suppose it was always inspiring seeing that.
This desire, that clear vision, as you said, they knew what they were about and they had this desire. I look at all of you guys who play the elite sport, and I don't see one leader and then lots of followers. I see like all these individual high performance leaders within a team, and you've all got those same attributes in different ways. How have you used those leadership skills and brought them across to the corporate world or the entrepreneurial world?
Yeah, well, I think it's been a real development in rugby since I started playing professional rugby as well. As you've almost gone away from the model of a captain as such to he's the guy that kind of flips the coin, but it's a really strong leadership group that will actually drive a lot of the standards and behaviours in the team, and everyone will have a different turn at leading through the week and chipping in a team huddle. It's not look at the captain and let him talk. It's the group that's all really aligned. One of the things I learned probably in my later years around leadership is it's really got to be like the true you. It's got to be what you truly believe in and what you stand for, and a lot of those are your values that you've been brought up with as a young person. And if you're really true to a lot of those values, then it comes out as being really honest and really genuine when you lead. And so for me, I just try and stay really true to that stuff, and that's how I chat and lead. And the beauty is everyone's slightly different too, so you get a nice mixture in your leadership groups. And so certainly, I think that's something that transfers really nice into the business world. I feel like some of my characters I don't really know, but I'd say that I'm extremely competitive, but I'm very kind. Courageous, kind, caring. I love people. I love connecting with people and chatting with people. So, and getting to know them and getting to know their families. I really enjoy that side of teams. And so I can drive that in a rugby team, but also when I'm away from that and involved in a couple of the businesses I've got, really love meeting new people and understanding their story and some of those behaviours I try and action to. And the business world, I'm pretty competitive. I'm pretty relentless too. I don't really let up. So I like to think I keep going until I get something too. So so I think some of that stuff and when you're when you're your true self around your colleagues or your teammates, then that's how you get your respect. And I think it's like I've seen, it's really easy to read books on leadership and then try and emulate what it says you should be. I think it can be seen as false sometimes. You can see through it. So yeah, that's probably what I've learned through leadership, and anyone can do it then, right? If you're a high school kid or you're an old man, or lady, you can carry on being true to yourself and get that respect through your leadership.
I think that's really powerful, particularly for anybody listening that's an aspiring leader or as a current leader wanting to kind of be more authentic. Is it's the answers are not in any books. There's some good strategies in books, maybe some good examples, but leadership is on the field, whether that field is grass or whether that field is in the boardroom. Like actually getting in and having a really tough day and hitting adversity and facing COVID and getting out the other side as an athlete or as a CEO.
Absolutely, yeah. And when you've got a process to figure that out, like what I've talked about, you sit down and you go, what do I stand for? What do I really believe in? What's really important to me? And you can write those things down. And then if you drive those things really well, then you'll do a really good job of it because you believe in it.
And with leading, I always look, leading starts with yourself, learning to lead yourself. So where are you headed? So what's the next 3 to 5 years look like in your life?
Well, I'm in New York again next season. So that'll finish up in June or July. And at this stage, I'm really loving it here. I'm meeting some incredible people in the city, and the energy and kind of what you give, you kind of get back in the city too. I've found that the big way too, which has been inspiring actually, living in a city like this. So, I'm not jumping into anything too quickly. I'm keen to, when my rugby time's up, if that's in July, I'm keen to give myself 6 months to just kind of have a big deep breath and get my feet back at home and really have a good think about what I want to do next. I've got some really cool opportunities, but I want to make sure I get that right. So I know how important goal setting is and putting a plan in place, but I'll decompress a little bit after I retire from rugby, and then come up with a really clear plan after that.
That's brilliant. To me, that shines a light on your decision-making process. Like inadvertently, we just uncovered your decision-making process. And that is, hey, sometimes creating space and detaching gives you the clarity of thought to make really good decisions and goals. That's fantastic, man.
Yeah. And like, I love rugby and I love being involved in it. But I've been involved in it for 15, 20 years now, like full on professionally. So, just to step away, big deep breath. I've still got great friends in rugby circles, so we'll keep connecting. But just figure out if it's going to be involved in rugby, then great. If it's on to another adventure, then so be it. But I think it'll be pretty clear when I give myself a few months to figure that out.
I love it. And for those listening who don't know, Andy's also very entrepreneurial and is involved in satellite internet that takes essentially internet to very rural places in New Zealand, giving lots of kids and families access. He's also got an incredible Wagyu beef company and arguably one of New Zealand's top products. If you go to the top restaurants in and around Auckland and Christchurch, it's an incredible product. So what else have you got on the cards there that you're excited about?
Oh, no, they're the kind of the big two sort of focuses back home.
Epic.
But like I'm really fortunate to have great people involved with both of those companies as well. So I can be off, floating around New York and now home putting in some really hard yards. But they're two companies that I'm really passionate about, and both being startups. So there's always a little bit of an emotional tie to them too, isn't there?
Of course, 100%. And what I love about that is you're not talking about me, you're talking about we. You're like, hey, it's a team thing. We've got good people we're doing it together. It's a partnership. So it comes back to looking at leadership as a we versus me.
Yeah, I suppose so. It's a good way to approach it. And that just is the truth too, it really is.
I've got one last question for you before we wrap up. And I know you've got a couple of children, so I want you to think about your kids, and you've got to give them one piece of advice. And they come to you and they go, Dad, how do I lead a life of purpose? What would your advice be to them if they asked you that question? Dad, how do I lead my life and lead it with purpose?
It's deep. But I think, and hopefully I've touched on it a little bit here, is to kind of be really true to yourself, and whatever those values are or characteristics are, but let that kind of shape you a little bit. Figure out what they are. Take time to write them down. And my kids are young, 7 and 11, so they're not there quite yet. But they will, and we'll continue talking about this sort of stuff and what's important to them and what their passions are, what they're really into, and then really try and help them believe that they can go down that track, whatever that is. Yeah, and so it's a little bit of a waffly answer, but I think what I'm trying to say is understand what's really important to you, what you believe in and what you care about, and try and find something that you can go to work every day and really love, or carry on and do and really love. At this stage, my son's pretty keen on being some sort of sports person. At the moment, it's American football. But I said, mate, if that's what you want to do, mate. There you go.
Back them all the way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful advice.
Sorry. We're talking about kids. One thing that I got some advice early on, back when I was at the Crusaders. Actually, someone came in and talked to us, but they said the language that you use to your children is really important, and so I always really remembered that. So I always say to my kids now, like, if they do something really good, I'll say, well, you should be really proud of yourself. And it's so easy to say, I'm so proud of you, I'm so proud of you, son. It's this was great, or that was great. It should be, you should be really proud of yourself. And I've seen over time that it's actually really powerful. Now, when the young fella chip and chases and catches on the fall or whatever, he'll say to me, "Man, I'm proud of myself, Dad." It's so good.
That's so good.
You're not doing it for me. You're doing it for you. And don't get me wrong. There's definitely an element that your kids need to feel like you're really proud of them, and of course you give them that love and you tell them it. But it's just a little thing that I reckon, when I think about our kids at this stage, it's something that's kind of helped me as a parent to push, and I can see it coming through the kids. They're really self-fulfilled,
To me, that's really powerful. And to be empowering your kids like that, to really have self-love, self-appreciation, self-belief, and be proud, those things are really great ways to develop resilience against future mental challenges. We've all got, mental health, whether it's anxiety or depression. We all experience different challenges in life. And to be showing them from a very young age to be proud of themselves, that's incredible. They're not doing it for you, they're doing it for them.
Yeah, and I'm certainly no expert in this stuff, but it was just something that an expert had come in and told us, so that when the kids were really little, and it's something we've kind of driven, and I feel has been a really cool thing that we've been able to drive with the kids. You see it come through them.
And that's another thing, like just thinking to your time in the Crusaders, professional sport, you get access to incredible experts. And the same when you're in the entrepreneurial field, you get to rub shoulders and have lunch with experts in different fields. So that's another trait of a high performer like yourself, is that you listen. You listen, and then you take action on the little nuggets that are applicable to where you're at.
I've been so fortunate to have that, but both great players and coaches and management around, but also, yeah, you're right, the people that get in and present and help with mental skills or with opportunities outside of rugby, whatever they are. It's really fortunate, and it's been great because I love having a crack. So most of the time I'm all in. I'll say yes to pretty much anything. So it's good fun, and yeah, like I say, very very fortunate to have met a lot of these people on my journey, and something I encourage to young rugby players or young sports people too is to try and jump it as much as you can when you're young. I mean, don't get me, you've got to, with business opportunities and stuff, you've got to take time and go through that stuff the right way. But I mean, just in general, if there's a try and say yes more than you say no, I reckon is a good way to approach it.
It's a great advice. Good for your kids too, to know they can give things a crack and try things and experience things.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's brilliant. Well, Andy, I just want to say a massive thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to connect. And I look forward to, once you get back to New Zealand, to connecting in person.
Sounds great, man. My pleasure to come on. Anytime, bud.
Cheers. You take good care.
Thanks, brother.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed the content today, please smash that subscribe button below. And if you want to become part of my community, I've got an amazing free Facebook group. Please come and join us. The link is in the description below. And also, if you've got any questions about today's session, I'd love to know. Just comment below and I'll be sure to get back to you guys. Have the most amazing day.